All right, so I want to explain what this Alt-V IDE thing is, what its purpose is. So I wanted to create documentation for Alt-V that's actually kind of within the scope of your development, so you're not going to be switching between windows too much. So I wanted to kind of alleviate that whole issue there. So in order to do that, what I've done is I've created an extension with the help of Alexa and some other people. And what it does is I guess it's better that I show you. So what we're going to do is we're going to install the extension outright. So what we're going to do, Alt-V IDE. Okay, so we're going to click on this. Going to hit install. All right. And there we go. And the first thing it does is it pops up a welcome screen and says, hey, thanks for trying this extension. Here's some stuff to get you started. So this is going to immediately let you hop into development. So what I have here is some workspace. I have nothing in here. Nothing has started. So if I click on getting started with Alt-V development, it's going to give me some information. So some introduction, and it has a little table of contents. And what it's going to be like, it's going to say, hey, install this. You're going to install server binaries. I've added some information about Alt-V package. So if you've seen, my regular Alt-V docs, you'll actually see something similar to this. But what we're going to do here is it basically says, hey, install this. So we're going to install that and give it a moment. And then it's going to be like, okay, so make sure it works. Alt-V package. Oh, there it is. There's the version. Okay, cool. So then it says, hey, what we need you to do is install the server, the server binaries. So we install that. It's going to go ahead and download all that for us. And using voice, I'm just going to set that to no. And an example resource, yeah, sure, throw an example resource in there. Okay, cool. So what it's going to say is going to be like, hey, we actually have an issue with, package.json. We didn't find it. So as it was installing, we were installing everything. What we need to do now is just kind of reboot the Visual Studio Code here. So I'm going to actually just close this real quick, and then I'm just going to open it again. And once we're inside, okay, and this is where we were. Okay, and it says, hey, Alt-V workspace is validated. Let's get coding. Okay, great. So if we go to resources, it looks like it didn't generate everything. That's okay. So we'll just go ahead and do, we'll make a new folder here. We'll call one server, call another one client, right? What we're going to do is create an index on both sides. Index. And one thing we need is like a resource CFG. So if we go down here, if we follow the steps all the way down, it's going to be like, hey, here's what a resource CFG kind of looks like. So we can take that and actually put it in resources and do resource CFG, toss that in there, and there we go. And what it's looking for is startup and startup. So let's change these to startup and this one to startup, and there we go. All right, so when I start writing code, it's going to be like, I want to maybe do import all as alt from alt server, right? And then I'm going to go over to my client, and I'm going to be like, oh, import all as alt from alt client. If you notice, we're not getting any types. We're not getting any information, and that's kind of annoying. But if you actually switch back, it injected the type. And here, it's injecting the types for us on the fly as well. So now I have access to all the types that I need, which is great. It just set up the whole project for me, like pretty much, without me having, knowing all this stuff. It doesn't. You don't need to go through all the resources to be like, oh, I need to use these reference type injection things. I didn't know that. It just does it for you, and that's kind of the point of this. Like, it does a lot of the stuff for you. So now when it's like, oh, okay, so what do I do with this, like, alt stuff? Maybe I can go back to getting started. If I look through here, server side, it kind of explains some code here. And it says start coding. But if I go back to articles, I can go look at some, concepts. It's like, oh, what about using events? What's this about? You can look at, like, how all this works, how to use events and like what triggers them and what to do with them. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I see this code here, so I may as well just like take it and, okay, well, that says server, so I can just put that right here, you know? And then if I hover over stuff, start looking at it, it's like, oh, what's this? Open documentation for alt-on. And then you open it up and it's like, oh, so this is how it all works. Cool. And it's like, oh, what's this? See the server event list. Oh, what's this? I have examples of every single server event so I can get a basic idea of how everything works. So it's like the idea behind the documentation is like you integrate it into VS Code. So it's really easy to just kind of be like, you're hovering over stuff, you're looking at things, and you're like, oh, what is this? You know, what's the point of this? Like, oh, what's player? What does player do? You know, it gives general examples for everything, so you can kind of just click on stuff and find your way around. But if you really want to get super in depth, you can click on Open Alt V Docs, and it's going to bring up this huge list of everything that it currently has as far as documentation goes. So it's like, oh, well, what's, how do I set like player health? You know, you type it in, player health. There we go. I mean, this is for client side, but, you know, there's a server side one too. So if we do player health, yeah, here's the server side one. It tells you how to set it and all that sort of stuff. So it gives you general examples on how to do these types of things. So this is like the sole purpose of what Alt-V IDE actually is. It's not just about documentation. It's got more things intertwined into it, including even setting up your package JSON. Like you didn't even have, like I didn't even have anything here. And it was just like, oh, you know what? Here we go. Like it's all set up for you. So it's not just a documentation plugin. There's a little more to it than just that. So that's why it's a little confusing when you first see it, because it's like, wait, this is just, all it does is install types. It's like, it's not all about that, you know? So, but anyway, I don't know what else is gonna, this extension is gonna have. I think I'm just gonna keep working on some documentation to insert into it over time. But I feel like this is gonna be one of the best ways to introduce new players into Alt-V, or not even new players, but really just what do we call it? New developers, because they should be able to, like, within the first couple of minutes of installing this extension, they should know what to do. Like, that's the point. You know, we want to go from point A to point B where they can start up their server super quickly, you know? So, I mean, this is still a pretty rough extension. You know, it's making some progress, but I hope this kind of explains what it is, you know?